Lando Norris wins the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix, and thank God for that, because now the title fight is interesting and exciting. A few days ago, I made a video saying that it's now or never. Lando Norris must win the Hungaroring, and he did. Because going into the summer break, what Lando didn't want is Oscar thinking that, oh, I got this covered. If Oscar Piastri had won the Hungarian Grand Prix, then going into the summer break, all the pressure will be on Lando. We'll have a clear favorite on Oscar Piastri, and the title fight is kind of dull as it is. But thank God for an exciting Hungarian Grand Prix where Lando Norris won. All the credit to him. He drove an amazing race, even though he fucked up a little bit at the start. We'll talk all about it. But Lando Norris won the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix from third on the grid, keeping the title fight exciting. And now he has the momentum in his favor going into the summer vacation. And another reason why the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix was absolute cinema, because it added more elements into the title fight. A lot of variables that are now coming to surface, right? These variables could very well affect the outcome of the 2025 Formula One World Championship. So the race begins, and there's nothing much to say about Oscar Piastri. He started P2 and he was behind Charles Leclerc for the entirety of his first stint, so we will talk about it when we will talk about it. Nothing much to say in the race start about Oscar Piastri because he didn't do much, but Lando Norris, this guy is a slow starter. He is quick, but if he's not on pole position, like he has the chance of a clean getaway, highest if he has a pole position, because he bottles the pole position sometimes. So he has the best chance of securing a good getaway into turn 1 and out of turn 1 and maintaining the lead if he is on the pole position only. If he is starting P3, P4, something like that, then his racecraft is not that sharp. His car placement, his visualization technique in that split second, like, okay, this guy has this bit of a launch, he's going to go there, so I'm going to place my car here. Like, he doesn't think like that. He doesn't visualize that, okay, this might happen at the start of the race. Opportunities can come out here, here, and here. I need to capitalize on this. And also, when he was trying to go in the inside of Oscar Piastri, he should visualize that, okay, Oscar is still a little bit ahead and he's going to pinch me. He is not going to leave the door open. So I need to start thinking about backup plan. I need to place my car somewhere else in order to get out of all of this safely and maintain the position at least, even though I don't get a position or gain a position. He doesn't do that, so he fucks up the start, loses 2 positions to George Russell and Fernando Alonso. But credit to Lando, he gains the position back from Fernando Alonso fairly quickly. But unfortunately, and this is the first variable which could affect the outcome of the 2025 Formula One World Championship, is George Russell. So he's stuck behind George Russell. He gives his best. Lando's racecraft is not that good. But also the big problem that he encountered was the last 3 corners turbulence. He said it on the radio. The last 3 corners, regardless of how much you gain in the rest of the lap, they kind of give the opportunity for the driver ahead to negate the lead that the driver behind has made in the rest of the lap. You know what I'm saying? Like, earlier when the ground effect era started, the regulations objective was cars could follow each other more closely. And we saw that in 2022 when Leclerc and Max Verstappen had a lot of close battles. But due to some mistakes from Leclerc and several mistakes from Ferrari, that title fight never really became a title fight. But regardless, we could see that the ground effect era had some good signs and good contributions towards the racing action on track. But over the years, teams have found ways to find loopholes in that design system in order to generate the turbulence. So they cleared the FIA rulebook system, like, okay, this is a ground effect car valid to go to racing, but it generated more and more turbulence as the years rolled by. Because in Formula One, it's not enough that you are faster, but the others behind you should have a disadvantage. So over the years, they have developed the aero and all that type of stuff in certain type of way that the turbulence actually started affecting the cars significantly more. And that's why I'm kind of happy that we're getting a rule reset next year. Either way, because of that turbulence that the teams have found out, work their way around it, because in Formula 1 you have to, in life also, it's not enough that you are doing well and strongly, other people should have a disadvantage or should do worse. So like that's a rule of life apparently. So that happens, and Lando Norris loses all the gains he has made over George Russell until the end of the lap. Boom, that's where he is losing the advantage. So he spends a lot of time behind George Russell. On the other side, Oscar Piastri, right? And this is a gripe that I have with him, because he didn't push Leclerc enough. I don't think he was. I mean, yes, the Ferrari was quick in the initial part of the race. Yes, Leclerc was holding his own. At one point, the gap was 3 seconds. If you're Oscar Piastri, not like 3 seconds, but like 2.5, 2.7, something like that, then he reduced it to 1.6. He was never charging onto Charles Leclerc, just like Lando Norris was doing to George Russell. Let me say that again. Lando Norris was on the gearbox of George Russell. And credit to George Russell for driving so well. Like I mentioned, he is a variable. The other one is Charles Leclerc. He is a variable. These two are variables who are going to affect the outcome of the World Championship. So Charles Leclerc was never really under any real pressure from Oscar Piastri, but George Russell was under pressure from Lando Norris. So Piastri definitely should have tested the strength of the Ferrari and the mindset of Charles Leclerc, because he didn't really attack. I was never seeing that. He was almost around the DRS. He was 1.5, 1.6, 1.8, like that, like safe distance. Charles was never thinking in the cockpit that, oh my God, Oscar Piastri might try something in the next corner. He was never really under that type of threat throughout the first stint. And this is where Oscar Piastri lost some time. At least go and test it. Because after that, like, that will give you some option. Either you will pull further away from George Russell and Lando Norris and create a bigger gap. Like, that's advantageous too, especially around Hungaroring. Or you can push Charles to make a mistake and then get the lead and then control it from the front. So Oscar kind of lost an opportunity to capitalize on the strength of the medium tires on the first stint. I think when he came for his first pit stop, there was some life left in those tires. So that's a bummer for Oscar Piastri, but you live and you learn. Then the pit stop sequences start, right? Piastri was never really that close to Charles Leclerc, and the box to overtake thing, it kind of got nulled out. So when McLaren called Piastri to box to overtake, he was 1.6 behind Charles Leclerc. That's not enough when the Ferrari has comparable speed as just like you, and on the first outlap you'll be on cold hot tires. You have to factor these things in. You have to at least push him for a few laps, put the pressure on him, make Charles Leclerc take the life out of his tires so that he cannot extend, and his in lap, and your outlap on the cold hot tires will have a significant deficit difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Piastri would push Leclerc too much, then Leclerc's tire would be shit, and the box to overtake, even with 1.6 seconds of gap, will have a good effect, because Charles Leclerc's tires are toast. So his lap, the extra lap that he is gonna do, is going to be substantially slower than your outlap on the cold hot tires, Oscar Piastri's cold hot tires. So that way you could have made the undercut work. But because Piastri in the first stint, as I was mentioned earlier, he was not pushing Charles Leclerc. He was not putting any kind of pressure on him. That was kind of bummer. So he lost an opportunity there, and it kind of nullified his attempts at undercutting Leclerc. Yeah. Now George Russell, this is what he does. George Russell has been pushing hard, and when Piastri pitted and the lap after that Leclerc pitted, George Russell reacted. He pitted. Now Lando Norris is effectively the race leader. Now, this is where things get interesting. So, Lando Norris right now is leading the Hungarian Grand Prix. P2 is Charles Leclerc, P3 Piastri, and P4 George Russell. And this is where things get interesting. So, Oscar Piastri is now behind Charles Leclerc, and earlier we saw in the first stint that Charles Leclerc can hold his own. But thanks to Ferrari, this is another variable. Charles Leclerc is obviously a variable himself because of his skills, but Ferrari is also a variable because of their incompetency. So if Ferrari didn't screw up Charles Leclerc's car, like when Leclerc went into the pits for his tire change, they put some curse on the car, threw some pasta on it, said some shit, and now the car is slower. It's undrivable. Charles is starting to have some problems, and he's being very cryptic about it. He's like, you didn't listen to me. You did something which screwed the car. Now the issues are unmanageable. If we did the thing that I was suggesting, then the issues would have been slightly manageable by me because I know how to handle it. Something like that, something along those lines. It was very cryptic radio exchange. The Ferrari people were just being silent. Brian Bossi, his race engineer, he was silent mostly, not saying anything meaningful. They rarely do, Ferrari pit wall, if I'm being honest. So that's another variable. So they screwed Charles Leclerc's car, and his pace was basically gone. He was falling, he was going backwards in the race. He couldn't hold his position. He could have won the race. He could literally have won the race on pure pace if Ferrari did not put the curse on him and, fucked up his car in the pit. Like, that's a very evil team, if you ask me. I don't know about you guys, but that's a very evil team because he had pace. We saw it in the first stint. And then after the pit stops, you did something to his car and there was no pace anymore. Like, he was not fast enough to keep the McLaren behind or to even fight with the McLaren with similar age of tires. It was horrible to look at. So anyway, this time Oscar Piastri goes around the outside. He makes the overtake stick. It's done and dusted. Amazing. Now he goes behind Lando Norris. Here is a critical thing you guys need to understand. You see how quickly Oscar Piastri closed up behind Lando Norris. He was I think, in the fight, he had, I think, 3 or 4 laps of attempts on Lando Norris. Lando was on a one stop, and that's basically where Lando Norris won the race. Let's give some praise to Lando first of all. I was caught up on Piastri and Leclerc Ferrari problems. So let's take a look at Lando Norris and give him some much deserved praise because the mediums were toast and Lando somehow didn't make any mistake, and it proves the thing that I said in a few videos ago. I talked about how Lando Norris is a slow starter, but as the race progresses, as the race goes ahead, he becomes better and better. And if you're behind him at this stage, your chances of overtaking him is getting closer to 0. So when the race starts to unfold and the second phase of the race begins, second half of the race, that's where Lando goes to a flow state. He doesn't make much mistakes. He knows where to brake, where to accelerate. He knows how to maintain position. He knows how to lead the race properly. And he did it perfectly. Oscar Piastri tried everything. And I think he could have tried going around the outside into turn 1. I think he could have done that. But Lando was actually very good. And like I mentioned, the last 3 corners of the Hungaroring give the opportunity for car ahead to kind of negate or nullify or neutralize the lead of the car behind that they have made in the rest of the lap. If you make progress onto the car ahead in the rest of the lap, the last 3 corners you will get turbulence from the car in front and your lead onto them is basically gone. So that's a bummer for Oscar Piastri, and that actually saved Lando Norris. The thing he experienced with George Russell kind of helped Lando in the later stages of the race to go ahead and secure the victory. So now the title fight is a little bit interesting because now we are seeing that, okay, Lando Norris is going on alternate strategies because this is something that has been lacking. We haven't seen these guys outthinking each other over the course of the race, right? Like there was attempts earlier about going on one stop and trying to go on alternate strategies. We saw that in Belgium. Didn't really quite work out. This is the one in which the alternate strategy type of thinking worked out. Oscar Piastri, two-stop race, started second, finished second. Lando Norris started third, went to fifth for the time being, then went back to first, and then went on to win the race. Oscar Piastri should take some takeaways from this. The first one is you have to overtake Lando Norris in the first half of the Grand Prix. You have to do it. If you start behind him, attack it like your life depends on it, because that's gonna win you the race. Or try to do the alternate strategy just like Lando Norris has done. Even if it's like the hard tires as we have seen, and in some cases mediums, Lando Norris will know how to bang in those good laps towards the end of the Grand Prix. But under pressure he buckles, but if he's leading the race, he will make less mistakes. So Oscar Piastri needs to clear Lando Norris in the first stop if he is behind him at the start of the race. Now, some things about Norris that we come to find out is that he still has the starting problems. He still has those issues, but fortunately now he knows how to thug it out. He knows how to hang around with worn tires in order to get some advantage in the later stages of the race and win the Grand Prix. Now, going into the summer break, this is very exciting because now there's going to be some stress on Oscar Piastri, and that's what putting the pressure on your opponent is all about. You need to put the psychological pressure that now the momentum is on Lando's side going into the summer break. We will see what Oscar can do. Oscar needs to come back in Zandvoort. And it should suit Oscar, but we will talk about Zandvoort when the time is right. But right now, God bless Lando Norris. He pulled through. There was a lot of pressure on him. If Lando didn't win this race, it would have been championship dreams over again. Like basically over, because Oscar has got the edge. And Hungaroring is a Lando Norris type of track. And he won in his type of track. He won it the hard way. He won it by outthinking and thinking on the go. On the go, they had to think like, okay, let's just try this, let's just try that. And he took some risks. He thugged it out. Great race by Lando Norris for all those reasons. Charles Leclerc and George Russell and Ferrari pit wall are the variables that will affect the outcome of this World Championship. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.